One, and we are live.
All right.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim. Ghayril maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Ameen. Alhamdulillah. Hello. How you doing,
Hello.
Hello. Hola. How you feeling?
I feel fantastic. All praises due to Allah. Over and over and over and over again.
I mean. Alhamdulillah, what a beautiful Malcolm Day, huh?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Sun, having it.
Man,
Beautiful sunshine.
I was hoping you
Uh,
would do something.
85 degrees.
Can you
You
believe
know what I'm
it?
saying? Long day, so you can go outside once we get through. Cause I ain't gonna hold you too long, cause I gotta jump to something. When we get through, go
Okay.
outside and just embrace this beautiful air, this beautiful sun that Allah graced us with. Alhamdulillah's reflection of our brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
So alhamdulillah, I know we touched on we can introduce yourself.
Okay.
Uh
On Facebook, I am Iola EC. I chose Ameedah years ago, but
mm,
legally it's Iola EC. And I've been in First the Nation of Islam, since I was about 7 years old, and it's been a journey. It's been a fantastic journey for me,
Allahu
and I'm blessed that I'm still here. I can still remember, and I'm always happy to see Malcolm anywhere because I saw him for at least almost 10 years of my life growing up, and some of those years were very personable times.
mm,
So I say all praises due to Allah, all praises. And I have to start off by thanking my father, Jesse, 2X at the time, but he chose Mumin Abdullah after, the transition. And that's the reason that I can really speak about Malcolm, because that was one of the first persons that he heard when he came to the temple. And the temple at that time was on Frederick Street. And I think I've told you this before. But
mm.
I didn't explain to you that the temple was next down the street from a slaughterhouse of hogs and pigs. So you can imagine what that smelled
Yeah, you didn't tell me this part. I definitely want to jump into that.
like. Yeah, it was
Wow.
it was down the street. And so my dad's restaurant was on and his barbershop was on Russell. So all we had to do was walk to the corner and walk down the street. But every day you could smell that odor coming from that place.
Wow.
But inside that temple, it was a whole nother life. You didn't even smell it when you were in there. And my dad said, he said that Malcolm changed his life.
Mm.
Because, Malcolm was the spokesperson for the Nation of
Right.
Islam. He brought a whole bunch of people in because they heard him. And my dad said Malcolm changed his life because on that very block where they were slaughtering pigs, Malcolm was telling you, don't touch them, don't hardly look at them, and make sure you don't eat them. And I can tell you this because my dad wrote his autobiography. And I didn't see it until years later, but it was a lot of things in there that I didn't know about him, and he was like, when he heard Malcolm's speak, he knew why he could understand that the white people were the devil, because that resonated with him because he grew up in Mississippi where they treated him horribly.
Right.
So he said when he heard Malcolm, he was ready to go home and throw all the pork out and everything. So so it was a wonderful time. And I was just a little girl, I was a little
So
girl.
yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. When did y'all make y'all conversion? So you was born already? Was you
Oh yes,
family
I was
converted?
about
Okay.
6 or 7. And my dad had a barbershop and Russell was a few blocks over north of not north, east of Black Bottom, Hastings.
Right. So this around. So the original Miles is in Black Bottom area, right?
Yes, he was
Right.
right. You could walk from my dad's barbershop and restaurant to Black Bottom on Hastings Street. And at that time, he just had a restaurant, and he had a restaurant where he was selling all sorts of stuff in there. So after he heard the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam and Malcolm, he decided that very night to go home and change his life. Wow. He got rid of the restaurant, and it was a few years before he opened up another restaurant that was called the Shabazz.
Right.
He always had a barbershop, Jesse's barbershop. It was always there. And my mom worked in the old restaurant, but this sister Ella D had invited my mom also to the temple at the same time to hear Malcolm. So they both heard him at the same time. And I have to tell you too that I understand my dad even more now, because his birthday was like the 17th and Malcolm is the 19th. And this was a time when we did open up the Shabazz restaurant and Malcolm started to come in there. My dad would eat with him every night. Every night they would eat dinner together. Wow. And I was like, my dad, he didn't take no stuff from nobody. He wasn't outgoing, and Malcolm was like in your face. You knew, if you looked at his face, you knew what he meant.
He was serious, right?
Yes, he was serious. My dad, he had those razors, and he would cut you with the razor, and you wouldn't even know he was coming, because that's the kind of guy he was. So I think about those times, and when they were doing stuff at the temple, you had to get all these papers, you had to do this. My dad didn't do none of that. He worked in the barbershop. He got as many papers as he wanted to, and then nobody messed with him. Maybe they were scared of the being in his barbershop with that straight.
With that razor, right? That razor on him. They're
gonna
get that. Neck, leave out that $1.50. You try to keep playing with me.
Right. And I told you I'm writing my autobiography, and I'm doing it with Zarina El Amin, and she's given me so many pointers on exactly what to do to make it a good book. And I'm mainly doing it as a legacy for my children. But then it's a lot of people that's in our temples and masjids now. They have no idea of what happened in the 50s to get us to 2021.
Right.
I hear sisters saying, they made us, we couldn't run in the masjid, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, Detroit was the place, number one, it was the place where all of the sisters most of the sisters in the 30s were in Detroit. And my mom gravitated to those women. And they would tell her all the things that they had to do to get a temple off of Frederick Street with those hogs, to go to 5401 John C. Live, which was like a palace from smelling all that hog. And then go to
Temple number one,
11529 Linwood. They collected pennies to get to this place.
Right.
So when you see older sisters talk about pioneers, my mother wasn't a pioneer. The sisters that she talked to were pioneers. So the younger sisters, they have to understand why 11529 is so sacred to us. And I know it's just a building, but we appreciate the sacrifices that those women did. Just listening to some of the stuff. And my mom was like, I couldn't do nothing. I could not do anything. I got put out one time for sitting on the grass. So it was a whole bunch of sisters. I had about 67 sisters, and we would go to the MGT. And one night we got marched up front because we were sitting on the grass at Belle Isle. So so it it was a wonderful time. It was a wonderful time. And Malcolm, one of the last times, it was three like last times that I really talk about that I saw him. One of them was Sister Baby G. Marie Joshua. Her family was from New York, and so her cousin, Sister Novine. Novine was married to Brother Bacha in Atlanta, but she wasn't married to them. We were just 8, 9 years old, and so she became the secretary for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Her sister married John Ali, who was the national secretary for the Nation of Islam. And so we went there one weekend to help her out because ministers were going to come over. And I say, I could never get away from Malcolm because I'm over there helping her, serve the dinner, and in walks Malcolm. So I got to serve him again. After serving him when I was 10, I was probably about 12 or 13 now. And I didn't really know the whole while why I was over there. But probably the next day, Novine said, come to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's house. We got on the L. She's a few years older than me, and I couldn't have been no more than 13. We get on the L. We go to the L train. We go to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's house. I'm Detroit. I don't know nothing about an L train.
Right.
It was dark when we get there. She said, go to the back door. We teenagers going to the back door of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's house. So we get in. We did get in. We knocked on the door. We got in. And we go into this beautiful living room. I'm 13 years old from Detroit. We go into this living room. Sister Clara Muhammad says, come in and have a seat. Ooh. We go in, we sit down, and we nervous, because we done came through the back door. And so then we all got up, we go out, we get in limousines. We go to see a white man's heaven is a black man's hell. Ooh. The whole entourage, all of the ministers were there. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was there. Sister Claire was there. And here me and Marie are from Detroit, sitting in the front row seat, listening at Louis X sing a white man's heaven is a black man's hell. So that was at one time. The next time I see Malcolm, we were on. Our restaurant moved as often as the temple did. When the temple moved on Linwood, we moved on East Forest, right at Burns. I didn't know nothing about the East Forest, but we moved on Forest at Burns, and we got a flat on Burns so we could walk, to the restaurant. And my dad worked at Ray's Barbershop. Ray is Mr. Raymond Cantrell of the funeral home. But he was my dad was the manager of the barbershop there. Mr. Ray was just going to school to be a mortician. But anyway, it was one night and we were sitting in the restaurant, me, my dad, and my mom. In comes Malcolm, Sister Betty, and their baby. He came to introduce Sister Betty and the baby to my dad.
Daddy.
I was like, so they loved each other. So this is what I saw.
So let me ask a question. So was your father Malcolm's a little bit older than your father, or they were on the same band?
No, my father's much older than Malcolm. My
dad was much older.
1913.
Okay.
Yeah? So he was older than Malcolm.
Yeah. Okay. But so he was Malcolm's big homie. Let's say that what we say right in the hood now.
I'm telling you.
But Malcolm he respected Malcolm as his leader.
Yes, he did.
Isn't that as his brother Ed?
He cut his hair.
Isn't that something incredible? Like we see so much in it. Like they basically was like a generation apart, or half a generation apart. Right. But your father still had enough wisdom within himself to revere that man and know that this is a man that I trust with my life to lead me.
That's right.
Right. So
He did.
that's a reflection that a lot of times you see the generations that and these later generations that we get so caught up in the generational conflicts, let's say that, where a lot of sometimes older generations don't see leadership in the younger generations, and that's consistently is calling a mass. Let me say, I want to say inflation, but a mass deflation of young people in our communities.
That's right, because we need young people. We need
right.
We do. And he was young. You know, he was a young guy. He wasn't.
Right, he was in his 20s. Right,
yeah.
he was in his 20s,
he
man.
was probably 30. He might have been.
No, he got out of jail at what, 52?
Okay, so 55, 56, he was coming into our restaurant.
Right.
Yeah.
So was it 52? It was about 50. It was the mid 50s. I know that for a fact. So he's about late 20s, going on his 30s.
Right, right. And he wasn't married, but he was a family guy, because he would tell all the young brothers and that used to come to the restaurant, and they would come and sit at his feet because they wanted to hear some of this knowledge that he was spouting out. It was a good time for me to live. It was a good time for me to live, and I thank Allah that I can remember it.
Right?
Because I'm getting on up there too.
Right.
I want to remember this, and I wanted to do this book so that my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren will know where I came from and why I am the way that I am. Because my dad's motto was, if you don't have anything good to say about anybody, don't say anything. And that's the way that he was.
Right.
That's the way that he was.
So another question. Because Malcolm was here for some years before he went to New York. So basically, you saw him every day
for 30 days.
Wow. After your father friend.
Every day he ate at my mom's restaurant. Every day. So every day my dad wasn't cutting no hair. He would come over there and eat, and I would serve him. I would serve him, and I'd get the tips.
Now he was a charismatic cat. We all know that. So I know you told us a few. Like, it's any jewels, let's say that. I don't want to get to this too much big personal conversations, but if any like long, I know he because he liked to talk. So was there any jewels that he gave you or conversation? And he was a street dude, so a lot of times, when you making the transition from the streets and you transitioning, sometimes you just want somebody to talk to, especially the person got a lot of people got a lot of good energy, because a lot of times you need a lot of therapy when you deal with the streets. That's saying I know this type of stuff. I'm just saying. But like was it anything like that he shared with you that made you like, that basically gave you jewels to stay away from it, or basically just taught you something like maybe this is I'm gonna listen to what this brother is telling me?
Well, I was really young, and I listened to a lot of the stuff that he said, and I listened when he would come in and he would talk to brothers, and he would tell them to get married. And he would say, Iola, go get the Bible. Corinthians 7:9, read it. It's better to marry than to burn. So that stayed with me, and so that's probably why a lot of younger people got married back then. We got married because he was saying it's better to marry than to burn. And he was, and so I came from a family that we like to dance, and I love the music, and I would get all of these tips, and he would taught me then, what are you doing with your tips? I had to tell the truth. I put him in the jukebox. I wanted to hear all of this music. And he just looked at me and he shook his head. But I learned from that to be careful with my money. I learned to be careful with my money and don't just frivolously throw it away.
And it's a brother fresh out of jail, right? He was fresh.
Yeah.
Hey, that's something.
With your money. And then I got to do a lot of things because of Malcolm, because Brother Wilford became our imam after then. And because he would ask me to speak before these brothers, and I wasn't afraid. Wilford would ask me to go with him to Muskegon and Grand Rapids to tell what Islam was doing for me, and I was 12 or 13 years old. Like he would go, because they didn't have temples then. They were speaking in people's homes.
Right.
So, and we loved Wilford. We loved anybody that was close to Malcolm. And he would, and so I would go in there and give him my little spiel about what MGT was doing for me, and and what we were learning at the MGT, and a lot of it we could use now. And then one time, and I know it was because of Malcolm. I spoke at a Savior's Day convention. I was 12, 13. I was like, how did I get to do that? And I think it was my association with Malcolm, Wilford.
The little crew.
It was
the little crew.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So he was a natural motivator. Like he didn't even have to. His whole aura, and that's the crazy thing. Anybody, except for those who probably still have some type of conflict with him about the situations, all that stuff. Anybody who you ever listen to, they say he just had this thing about him where you just. Like you wanted to just be on go for him, like anything he do. Yeah, like you wanted to ride with him for it.
If he walked in the room, you wanted to be there. If you walked in the room, when he would come around, you could see him coming around the window to come into our restaurant, and I mean everybody was on point. Do you hear me? And I saw the sister on Bamily. Her name is Huda Ahmad, and she was talking about that was her boo. He was all the sisters' boo. And I was a young girl, and I tell somebody, I knew fine when I saw it. And he was fine. So Sister Huda, you are right. He would have been a boo. He was.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And the last time that I saw him, other than, after he left the Nation of Islam.
Right.
Last time I saw him, we had a fundraiser here at Temple Number 1. And, and like I said, everybody would come. They knew he was going to come to our restaurant after the temple. And everybody was there. I got pictures of everybody being there. I even had a picture of him and his brother, and somebody stole it. But everybody was there. And he came in, him and Wilford came in just to greet the crowd and just breeze in for a little bit and look at everybody there. He didn't even eat. He just stayed for a little bit and then he left. And that was the last time I saw him alive in Detroit.
Well, now what was that the time period when he was getting excommunicated, or was
No, he was still in then. He was still in.
So this before the JFK
Yes, it's before that. It was before that.
I never asked you this before though, and I really want, and it's younger people watching. I really want to know, like, how did you feel in that period? Like, I never asked you that before. Like that period, like how? And you was a young girl, but I think about people like to underestimate youth intelligence. Like we like the. I think I'm old now, but. Right. When we was young, we was extremely intelligent, especially those who've been, been around. A lot of adults have been on their own for a minute, right? Or just outside. You have a certain level of wisdom as a teenager, like so, and it's understanding of things. So when that transition happened, excommunication happened, and you said that was your boo. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You had a lot of love for him, and then at the same time, we had Wilbur. Basically, had his fitting with Wilbur, and then he's going through situations where that's what I want to ask you, right? Because you say your father was a boss, right?
Yes.
Your father was a boss. This is a good question. And he had a very strong love and admiration for Malcolm.
Oh, yes.
How did he feel about all the fitna that was surrounding Malcolm from the brothers that was trying to take him down? Not from a lie. I'm talking about for the brothers that how leadership is. You've been masjid boards, you be in these little boards and this snick and these little devilish little things. People suckers do. So
yes, because you heard it.
Right.
And it was shocking because we wanted Malcolm. We wanted Malcolm. You know, but you know, some people outgrow things. You know, you can have the baddest dude down for you, but sometimes he will outgrow you and leave you. And that's what Malcolm did. He saw stuff that we did not see. If we were following him and enamored by all of the stuff that he would tell us, he saw stuff that we did not see.
Right.
Just like Imam Muhammad saw stuff that we did not see, and he split. You know, he was put out many times.
Right, a bunch of times.
Yes, he was put out many times.
Before Malcolm.
We could do. We were so, you know, so in love with what we were taught with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and it wasn't bad stuff. Everything was not bad. And like you have said, sometimes we throw the baby out with the bathwater, and a lot of that stuff we did. But true Islam, we needed that. Malcolm saw that.
Right.
I believe he saw that.
Please repeat that. I'm happy you said that. And from your era and you saw that. You was a youngin', but you please say that again.
It was something because you know a lot of people, they like you say, a lot of people speak bad about him in the nation of Islam. You know, I never ever heard my father say anything negative about Malcolm X ever. And we had a closer relationship with a lot of the people in the temple because we saw him other than up on the rostrum. We knew what kind of man that he was. And he trusted him. He trusted him. So he never said anything. He never left the Nation of Islam because his understanding wasn't the understanding that Malcolm had. You know, Malcolm had, if you saw him over there praying, we weren't doing that.
Right.
We weren't doing anything. And Imam Muhammad wasn't even talking. Imam Muhammad wasn't taking us there yet. So, my dad never said anything about it. And when he was killed, I was at Sister Francina Muhammad's house. We were cooking because our husbands had went to Savior's Day. And we didn't have something. And I said, well, I'll go to the store. So I go to the store. It was on Highland and 12th Street. I go to the store. I hear on the radio that Malcolm had been shot. That was terrible. That day was the worst day. You know how you can remember where you were? Well, you could, probably you can't, but where when JFK was killed, you're like, oh, I know where I was that day. Or 911.
I can remember where I was there when Tupac got killed, so I don't know.
You see, in the back.
That's the close thing I had to it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so and I call my dad. Because he didn't go. My mom went to the convention because it was at convention time. She went to the convention, but my dad didn't go. And so I just called him, and you know, you heard the news, and he really didn't even want to talk about it. He didn't want to talk about it. And so
did he ever talk about it afterwards, like pieces here and there?
In his autobiography, I think he said some stuff because, you know, we went through a thing at the Nation of Islam.
Right.
You know, we went through a thing at the Nation of Islam. And so my dad would talk about that. And some of that stuff, I don't think, this is my own personal view, I don't think it would ever happen had Malcolm had been around. But, you know, that's hindsight, 2020, you know. But no, some of that stuff that went on, you know, no.
So was it like a trickle down effect after he got we already know Imam Muhammad kept getting kicked out.
Right.
He was kicked out before. This is historical fact. He gets out because he was refuting, you know, that theology for a long time. And I know a lot of people don't want to talk, but we got to. I mean, you have to adhere to the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they got to stand firm on that. No matter about people's feelings about it.
No,
and Imam Worth Dean was doing that as a 20. If Malcolm was what 29, 30 in his 30s, you got to think about it. This man was standing up to his pops in his late teens, early 20s.
And you know he had to be thinking about this
right
for a long time because he studied Arabic. He
studied
Arabic for a long time, you know. So, but he just didn't. It wasn't time.
Right.
Wasn't time. And when the time came, he was taking no prisoners.
So your father, was he close to Imam Worth Dean?
My dad, when it time,
I know he was in Philly though, right? Imam was in Philly, right?
Yeah, he was in Philadelphia. But when the transition came, my dad did not hit a lick. He went right on. He went right on him and that's why I'm here today. They pushed and shoved, you know. They pushed and shoved. They told me what was going on because you know I had 5 kids, 2 jobs, blah blah blah. So I wasn't coming a lot, but they kept me informed as to what was going on at the mass jail. They let me know what was going on, and my dad he switched right over. He switched right over, and now when I was a young girl, we would go over to Temple No. 2 for Savior's Day conventions. In Chicago, at the school. When we would go in there, when Wallace would come through the door, it was like a rock star had came through. People would be looking at, he was fine too, Lord have mercy. Oh my gosh. Young Imam was fine. Young Imam was fine. And I mean, everybody, he would be way on the other side and everybody would be trying to get over there to look at him because we had heard all my life. I had heard that he was going to be the next one.
Right.
You know, he was going to be the next one. We didn't know when because we didn't even think Elijah Muhammad was going to die. But when he did, look how smooth the transition was.
Right. So that's another question I want to ask too. Like, so in the midst of all that, what was your father? What was some of the conversation that you probably ran across when you heard a certain thing where they was thinking Malcolm was trying to take the nation from?
My father, he never believed that because after Malcolm died, he stayed with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He was a good follower. Him and my mom both. But when truth comes in, you can't deny it.
Can't deny it.
You cannot deny the truth, and he didn't. When it was time to move on, he moved on. And I'm so blessed because if somebody don't tell what was going on back there, because a lot of the people and the young people that I grew up with, it's just a couple left. It's more, but they don't come, you know, they're not associated with the mosque anymore. Some of them are in the church and, you know, a lot of stuff. So I'm just blessed that I came through that, you know, and I can say all praises is due to Allah. And I thank Allah. I thank Allah. And I'm so happy. And I have to tell you this, Ramadan was so wonderful because I wanted to, last year and this year, because, you know, I've been in the house. My kids say, stay in the house. You ain't got to do nothing. You ain't got to go nowhere. We keeping you safe. We ain't coming in because we everywhere. So I've been in the house, but I tried to work on myself because I see things that goes on that if it was Prophet Muhammad's time, peace and blessings upon him, it's wrong. It's wrong. And I listened to a seerah of Prophet Muhammad. I listened to 103 episodes. And I pray to Allah. I said, I pray to Allah that we will become a stronger, tighter community and love each other and treat each other with respect and love. Because if we don't, what's going to happen to us? You know, we got to be strong like the Ansars were.
Right.
Yes, we got to be strong. You know, we got to be strong and work together and love each other. We have to have some love. Because I can see it, and sometimes I'm not seeing love. And I was like the prophet. I had to come in my cave and work on me.
Mm-hmm.
And work on me. But Malcolm was he was a great guy. My growing up period, he was a great guy. He was, and I'm thankful that he was in my life, and I remember it, and I want to write it down. And everybody that got elders in their family, ask them some questions. Ask them questions, because my dad wrote his autobiography, but I never knew it until I didn't get it till after he passed. Wow. And I would have asked him some questions, There's stuff in there that I would have asked him with Dad, And he was a nice guy. He was a nice guy.
Now, your pops, is his book published, or you just got the memoir?
I have his book, and when I do mine, I'm going to add it into the back of mine. So that, and I'm going to let everybody know when I get ready to get it out. Because the young folks need to know. They need to know that we had strong people back there that embrace our culture.
Right, that's it.
We embrace our culture. In the Nation of Islam, you wasn't trying to be nobody but who you were. You were you were an American Negro here in North America, and trying to clean yourself up and be the best person that you could be. And we wasn't looking at nobody else but ourselves. That's what I do now. I'm an American Muslim.
That's right. We are the American Muslim.
We are the American Muslim.
We are the American, and nobody else is. We are. We the establishment. We the foundation. We the pillar. We the brick. We them.
The water.
Exactly. We all that.
That's right.
And we the Freemason.
All of that. That's right. We have a wonderful history, and it didn't start with the Arab culture. Our history goes back. We're Black folks, strong Black people, and we got to look back to some of that to see how we got to where we are. And if it's negative, change it.
Was it like a particular? How often have you heard him speak live, like Malcolm speak live?
Oh my God! From the time I was 7 years old, he would come to the temple. Now I didn't hear him so much on Frederick because I was real little then. But when we went to 5401 John C. Lodge, I would go visit then, and then I went to school there. I went to the University of Islam, and so all of Malcolm's people came to the University of Islam. He had a brother named Wesley. I knew Wesley, Filbert, Wilford, and Malcolm. He had one other brother, but I didn't meet him until somebody had passed away. Yep. So it was lit when he would be there.
How was his face? What was some of his face? What like with this the energy of his face, and like when he was giving those lectures?
Sister Huda, if you had seen his smile, you'd have melted. Because he had a smile. And now when he was up on the rostrum, he was serious. He was serious, and he would look at you, and he talked really fast, and he could rumble that Islamic stuff, or that Nation of Islam stuff to you, and talk about the white man and the Black man, and how you should eat, how you should live, how you should be treated, and what you should demand for your treatment. That was I from the time I was 11 years old. And then my dad and mom, they went to every convention that there was, everywhere. And I was the little kid. So I got dragged along with them everywhere that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad went. My parents went. And I went to New York with them one time. That's how I met Noveen. I went to New York, and I could have lived in New York at 8. You could walk the streets all night long. It was unbelievable. And this was Malcolm City. This was Malcolm City. So they had a convention there. We went there. Everywhere. We went to Pittsburgh. We never missed Chicago. And that was when there was no 94. We was flying down Michigan Avenue. It took 100 hours to get there. And sometimes we would go, come back, and then go again. In the snow, because in February it's full
right, it's super cold.
Yep. And we would creep there, and you couldn't stop nowhere and eat. My mom would pack up all kinds of food for that trip, and we were gone. So everywhere that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was, Malcolm was the front man. He was the front man, and you'd be waiting for him because you want to hear some fire. Elijah Muhammad was not fire.
Right, he was just a good.
He was a good man,
the puppeteer. He was the puppeteer in the back.
Right. But Malcolm was the fire. He was fire.
Now, what about I don't want to hold you too long. I gotta get low. But was it a good energy between him and Lewis X at the time, or did you see?
You know what?
Please, I want to know.
Lewis X came to our restaurant one time too, but that was because everybody was there, and him and his wife came to our restaurant. But what always got me with that was, it always seemed to me that Lewis was trying to be Malcolm. That's my own. He wanted to sound like Malcolm, and that was my. And I, how you get an attitude sometimes when somebody is copying you.
Yeah.
Like the kids say, stop copying me. Stop copying me.
Yes. Say stop biting. He was biting.
Yes. He would try and sound like Malcolm. So and he jumped right in there, and he's still doing his thing. He's still doing his thing.
Yes, man.
Yep.
I got him and preserve him, bring him, give him on the other side.
Forgive him.
This is I know everybody. If anybody got a few questions, I want to. We can close out in a few. Guys, we got got a few people watching it live. I know it's gonna get a lot of feedback, playback once we go off. But if anybody got any questions, just post them. You got to be on the live because I'm not in every group. So, if y'all got any questions, post them. You got for Auntie. She giving us this a little bit more deeper than it was last year. So hopefully every year.
Look, I'm gonna say thank you, Serena Elamine. Thank you, because she has you brain dumping. You have to stuff to get this stuff out.
Serena is a marvel. She's definitely a marvel.
Yes, she is. I love her.
She is a marvel. Yes, ma'am.
She's helped me marvelously. I told her, I said, I really like writing. I may have to write another book. Doggone it. Hey.
Sheikh Kafani said, what was Malcolm's favorite meal? It's a great question.
Oh, that's an excellent question. I'm going to tell you, the first thing was I had to go get a quart of milk. I got a quart of milk for him, and I got a quart of milk for my dad. Then he would eat bean soup. And my mom was the best cook in the whole world. And she made barbecue lamb that would just make you they kept coming. He would eat barbecue lamb, and she made cabbage that oh my God, and candy carrots and anything else, and a piece of bean pie. And at that time, now this was in the 50s now, Sister Annie Islam made our bean pie. Sister Annie lived in Mount Clemens. Her husband was brother Islam.
Mount Clemens back in the 50s, in the 40s, I mean the 40s, 50s and 60s.
Yes.
Woo, that's a hype.
Bean pies.
Yeah.
And she was, one of them older sisters from the 30s. She would bring bean pies to my mom's restaurant, and the bean pies at that time, get ready, had meringue on the top.
Ooh, lemon meringue.
Had that meringue on the top.
Oh, my Lord.
Had bean pie.
Auntie, won't you resurrect that, please?
The only person that I used to make that for was, remember Roscoe Muhammad and his son. I used to have that ice cream parlor. I used to make them for him. And he would say, put the meringue on the top, because that's how we grew up eating them. That's how we grew up eating them. Yep.
Ooh,
yep. Yeah. And he would eat everything. And him and my dad would just sit over there, and they would talk and talk and talk. But that quart of milk every night.
Quart of milk. So milk does a body good, huh?
Yes, it did. Yes,
Brother,
it did.
Brother Ali Kabir Muhammad said he wants to give you greetings. So assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
So Auntie, I need your I know my mom, she used to make some good bean soup, but she be kind of sick, so keep her in your doors. But I need you to make me some bean soup.
I will.
And a good pot, and then invite my wife over there and teach her how to get. So I need some of that first bean soup. I don't need none of this new age stuff where they putting all these extras in there. I need my soup from the first back. What I remember when I was a kid back in the 80s, and I need some of that love in the whipping.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? When you whipping it up, I need some of that extra love in there.
That's right.
I definitely
your wife's ginger too. That's what I need.
Yeah, she gonna get it to you. We gonna get it. We can have a trade off, but you just gotta pay me. We can have a trade off. You just gotta pay me. So
you sound like my son. No problem.
We don't need a lot. The people is extremely happy. Again, they are super great light. They are loving in the comments. They loving the story. Okay. And I know we're gonna look forward to the book. And again, we got. I can't find last year. I think it's in the Wali Muhammad group, and I wanted to post it again. But I'm happy that we live right now.
Yes.
Got a few, so we've got a few hundred. Gonna be a few hundred people live.
Right.
Gonna catch on it. So inshallah, it's gonna be on my page. It's gonna stay on my page. It's gonna be on my YouTube page. On the Good Vibes Basis, like a Good Vibes with the Good Brothers special.
Right.
So you special, Auntie.
That's good.
You special.
So due to Allah, and I love you. You know I love you for the same.
I love you more. You know that. I definitely love you more. So anybody, we don't have any more questions. They don't have any more questions. It's something you can give us a reflection. Let's close out. Reflected on Malcolm. I ain't gonna cut you off, and I'm gonna let you for the next couple minutes say what you want to say, reflect on what you got to say, and just how to impact. How can that transition to our generation, the generation up under me, and how we can utilize this beautiful wisdom and these beautiful stories that you gave us.
Right. Well, I'll say that anybody that you can get with that will tell you the real deal, and I think mine is the real deal because I had actions. You hear people and they tell you about what they heard him say, or they listen to the tape or they'll read his book. I actually heard him speak up close and personal, and I think Allah blessed me with that, so that I could tell people that some of the stuff that you're spouting out is not right. It is not right because he left when it was time for him to leave.
It's time.
And look, how many years later we are still talking about him.
Yes, ma'am.
We talk about him more than they talk about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yep.
And
some people can't stand that. I didn't mean to cut you off, but some people they hate it, but
that's all right because I talk about my mom more than I do my dad.
Right.
But I love them both, and some people make an impression on you that other people do not make.
And some people's impression on the world is bigger than others, no matter who taught who.
That's right. And I say alhamdulillah for his life, for his legacy and his works. And I pray that Allah will keep his family safe, keep his children safe. And that we will go on honoring him on his birthday and then every day thereafter, if it's a positive thing in your life. And it has always been positive in my life. And I thank you for having me on. Thank you so much.
Inshallah, alhamdulillah, I appreciate that. It was so impromptu. I was like, man, I normally go to New York. I know last year the pandemic was heavy, so I didn't go. So I'm gonna call Auntie. She gonna give me the real. So I was like, you know what? You always on go and you ready. And alhamdulillah, you are, and I appreciate you so much because you don't understand how important it is for people like my age. I'm in a transitional age. I'm 40, so 41. So I'm in that age between I'm not old enough to be, have certain type of stories, but I ain't young enough to be acting like a fool. You know what I'm saying? So I got to really apply certain levels of wisdom, and and I'm in an intersectional area in my life where I can grab from both sides and be, intuitive of both sides. My attention can be on both sides and have an understanding of the younger folks and the elders.
And the older.
Right. and forgive some of the elders and have and be patient with some of the youngest. I'm at that age. Yes. And I learned that from a lot of people like yourself, people like Imam Salim Khalid, and people like Imam Salim Joseph and Imam Lukman and you know what I'm saying, the different leaders and aunties that really that apply that transparency. Let's say that.
Yeah, you know, we have to love the young folks. You know, yes, I have plenty of young folks in my family, and
right,
and you have to love them, and because it's going to take them some time also. So you didn't get everything right away.
Yes, ma'am.
You know? And so you just have to be gentle and loving, and practice what Prophet Muhammad practiced.
Absolutely.
That's what behind him.
That's the thing. The love word from a lot of, and that's the thing. And alhamdulillah, I'm so happy. A lot of us that's influence that have a certain levels of influence, and a lot of people that's in leadership from the major scale to the minor scale. Alhamdulillah, we are all on a love mission.
Yes,
that's not a mission of a mission of cowardice or a mission of being docile. No, a mission of love, implying, not implying, but being a reflective of that love in our character and be genuine about it, and people can pick up on that, and they can sense the transition in many of us when that love is applied. So
that's right. If it's not love, keep going.
Keep it moving.
Keep it moving. Love, keep it moving, because you don't have to stay nowhere that is not there.
We don't need no fake love.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And so we need to. So anybody that's watching that's younger, I'm begging you all. You in my age group, the group of younger than me, whatever. Tag somebody in to hear this story. Again, it's so many more stories, and it's, until you know me, I like to get that out of the people, and especially like people from the generations before me. I like to get these stories out because everything wasn't all doom and gloom, man. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times you had a whole bunch of summertime, you know what I'm saying? Summertime fun. So there's a lot of summertime fun in the hood, you know.
We have to realize the older people have to realize they got to let go. Mm-hmm. They got to let go, but because Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings upon him, young folks were around him.
Yes, ma'am.
Young people, so we got to let them come on out. They may make some mistakes, but hey, that's how the world goes around.
That's how you
have to repair it and keep going. So I'm ready to let them come on.
So anybody that's watching and in different groups that I'm in and then live and all that stuff, and when you watch it again, please make a dua for our beautiful auntie. She is a pioneer. She's a worker. You're a pioneer. You put that work in. I ain't gonna say founder. That would take you way back. She's definitely a pioneer. She's a pioneer, a trailblazer, a worker, still working at her well-seasoned age. You know what I'm saying? So she's putting that work in. So again, this is another one of our vets that is accessible to us. And as we see, we just buried Brother Ben. May Allah be pleased with him a couple of days ago. Brother Ben was, people who don't know Brother Ben, if he had any type of conversation with Brother Ben, was a rock.
He was.
And I know Brother Ben, he was a minister. So Brother Ben had his own stories with Brother Malcolm. You know what I'm saying? So this brother just passed, and they making that transition. So when the transition is happening, who was going to pick it up? And so people like yourself, I appreciate people like yourself who are passing the baton.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And alhamdulillah, may Allah preserve you forever. Inshallah, may Allah increase you. May Allah keep you. May you be much success to everything you do. May your book be a nationwide bestseller. If not, make it be a hood classic. You know what I'm saying? Inshallah. And you're gonna make it do what it do, inshallah. So again, I appreciate everybody that was watching. This was a special edition of Good Vibes with Good Brothers. My brother Halim, he's out the country right now, so I'm gonna pick up the baton. I'm gonna rock it myself, but I'm gonna make sure that we get this story out there. We're gonna keep this story out there, and anybody else, if you want to refer me to somebody to get the story out there, refer them. I definitely want to talk to them, and I love them also. So inshallah, I'm gonna close it out with Fatiha. And again, I appreciate everybody that was watching with us. Fatiha, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, ihdinas siratal mustaqim, siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim, ghayril maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. I sound like
a salam to Lanti.